What up? It is the Gopher Broke podcast. We're diving into another position breakdown and another opponent breakdown here at the Gopher Broke pod. So if you're into Gophers, if you're into wanting to hear what's coming in 2025, hit that subscribe button and we'll dive right in. What up, Gopher fans? It is Kane, Rob, and Tristyn Spann-Ford here with the Gopher Broke podcast. If you are just tuning in for the first time, or if you have been listening for a while but just haven't hit subscribe yet, please give us a like, a follow, a subscribe wherever you get podcasts or over on YouTube. We're gearing up for the season. We're breaking down each of the Gophers' positional rooms across the Big Ten, talking about our top 10 there too, and then we are going through each Gophers' opponent. So today we're talking wide receivers. We're talking Rutgers, Scarlet Knights. There's a little bad taste in my mouth from last year's game, so there's some things to talk about today. But as we do always, Tristyn, you got any gripes for the folks?
No, I'm on vacation this week, so it's kind of hard to have a gripe. I mean, I could complain about lawn work, but I kind of like doing lawn work. It's kind of nice, and beer always tastes better right after lawn work. So I'm not even going to complain about it.
All right, I got one for you. It's a little TMI, but so due to family history and whatnot, I have to get a colonoscopy early, bro. I got to get one early, right?
We on the same
And so
page.
I am prepping this week to have to go through that process, and I am reading the stuff that I have to do preparatory now, and I am like, how have we not thought of a better way to do this in the decades and medical advancements than having to buy bottles of Miralax and Gatorade and mixing some concoction together? How have we not advanced to another level? Because I'm looking at this, I'm looking at the hours, I'm looking at the times, and I'm like, for real? For real?
I'm actually so happy that you're doing this because I also am in that boat, but you're a couple years older than me, or 1 year, maybe a year older than me.
I think I'm a couple, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm gonna have to. This is gonna be nice to just know what to expect. So I need you to document the whole experience so I know what to expect because
I'll take notes, thorough notes. I'll be scarred. There will be trauma, but I will take thorough notes for you.
That's tough. That's tough. You got to schedule that like the first week of March Madness or something, so you can just sit on the couch for those first like 2 days.
No, because I'm not trying to run back and forth from the bathroom to the TV.
Oh yeah,
for
you're
the
right.
first.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Oh, so that's what's coming up. TMI for some on the listening waves. Others are like, I have no idea what he's talking about. So I hope you don't have to find out about it until you're supposed to at an older age. But you know, your boy has to get in on it.
That's right. It's
All right, so let's. Yeah, we got to be healthy. We got to take care of ourselves for the kids over here. All right, so I am going to throw a ChatGPT question out your way as we do each and every show now. And I want to know if Goldie Gopher had a burner Twitter account, what would he be tweeting about?
Oh, he'd be going in on what is the Badgers mascot's name?
Bucky.
Bucky, just going in on Bucky. Like that's what it would be all the time. It would be Luke Fickell and Bucky. He's just worried about what's going on over there, what they're doing. He'd probably be defending any bad calls or like bad play calling that PJ does. Like you'd be able to pick it out right away. Be like, oh, PJ knows what he's doing. He ran on 3rd and long here, on 3rd and 15 here, because analytically it makes sense. You guys don't know ball. That's what it would be.
All right, I'm on a different track. Ready? I think he would be gassing up Goldie. So like anytime a player does something wrong, he'd be like, yo, I bet you Goldie would do that better. Hey, yo, I bet you Goldie would throw that ball 40 yards on a dot. Like he'd just be gassing up Goldie every time he. And people would be like, bro, do you love Goldie? Or like, what is happening here? Goldie don't even play. Or like Halloween game day. Oh, bro, he would be like in love. He'd be like, subtweeting. He'd be like showing little hints of what might come, and yeah, he'd be going crazy.
Dang, Goldie really went all out this year on Halloween. 6 costume changes? What?
Bro, I got some behind the scenes footage on how quick he had to change. Or he'd be like flirting. He'd be sending them complimentary tweets like, "Yo, Goldie had to do 63 push-ups today. He looking swole." Like, oh, all right, man. But enough Goldie talk, enough having fun with it. Let's dive into the wide receiver room because I feel like this is one of the top rooms. People are like, I don't know all the names in this
Mhm.
room. I don't know what's going to happen, who's going to start, who's going to play, who's going to not. How many guys are in this room? What were your first thoughts when you dove in, you sat down? Because you're not a full research guy. You
Nope.
are a vibes guy. You are going with the flow. It's kind of hard to go straight or vibes and going with the flow, but I'm curious to know what are your first takeaways when looking at this wide receiver room?
Okay, so I'm looking at the wide receiver room and I'm thinking, how? Like, what room are they using to watch film? Because it's not big enough. I know it's not big enough. There's so many guys. And I mean, I'm looking at even like, okay, we talked about like, who we got for like 1, 2s, and 3s to start and whatnot. We've touched on it. I'm sure we'll touch on it today. But like, there are some guys on the back half that I'm really curious about who have not played a lot of football at all. Especially, I mean, obviously these younger guys, but there's questions. Like, it's a deep room, but there's still like, a solid 4 of them who are definitely going to play. And the other half is kind of like, are they going to fight for a spot? So research wise, not a lot of research to be done. Not a lot of, I mean, it's either they haven't played any snaps or they haven't taken a lot of snaps from us,
Yeah. No, I feel you. I wrote down in my notes that I think there's a lot of depth in this room, and you don't really know what the ceiling is and what the floor is. Like everybody is a crapshoot. I wrote down to myself that it's like having a bunch of scratch offs and you are trying to find out if any of them have more than like $1 win or a $4 win. You're hoping you get one of them big ones, one of them like $100, $1,000, and you're like, yo, we hit big on this one. Please stay in Minnesota and keep playing here.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, my take is that one of these guys will not play for us and be very good, and we'll be like, damn, he was on our team. Remember that? Does everyone remember when
Hmm.
he was on the roster but just didn't get a shot? That's what will happen.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think the biggest thing for me is I was trying to like figure out like how many guys even play because last year we really only saw Daniel Jackson and Elijah Spencer get a lot of targets. I mean, you saw other guys on the field, but those were the only 2 players. So I started to break down PJ's time here at the Gophers. In 2024, he had 2 receivers with 50 or more targets. Wide receiver 3 had 26 targets, and no one else was above 20 targets. Then 23, you had 2 receivers again with 50 plus. You had wide receiver 3 and 4, both less than 20 targets. With 2022, you had 1 receiver with 50 plus targets. Wide receiver 2 had 39, wide receiver 3 had 35, and then nobody else had more than 20. Then you got 21, 50 plus had 2, wide receiver 3 had 39, wide receiver 4 had 30, 19, 2 receivers with more than 50 targets. Wide receiver 3 had 43, wide receiver 4 had 20, and then finally 18, you had 2 receivers with 50 plus targets. Wide receiver 3 had 43, and the wide receiver 4 had 26. So really, if you look across the entirety of PJ here, except for the COVID year, and I didn't look at year one because year one was kind of just year one. Um, it looks like we'll probably have about 2 guys get over 50 targets. Now, those type of guys we saw last year, 115 and 71, and the Bateman and Tyler Johnson years, we saw 119, 95, 126 and 96. So like they can be up there, but then like in 23, we saw 107 from Daniel Jackson, and the next guy had 54.
It's a
So it's
steep
like
drop
it's
off.
all over the map, all
Yeah.
over the map. So I think overall you'll have 2 guys that really command most of the target share. I think you maybe have a wide receiver 3 who sees a healthy amount of targets. And then if you're lucky, the wide receiver 4 will see about 20 targets or so. So that's kind of what we're looking at. And then I looked at how many guys are in this room and I was like, let me count how many guys are in here. There are 11 guys in this wide receiver room. And now looking at those 11 guys, I think it's safe to say 4 of them probably won't get tick opportunities or snaps this year. For me, those four are Quentin Redding. I think he'll get it in other facets, but I don't see it at the wide receiver position.
That's my dog. Shout out to
Uh,
you.
yeah. Legend Lions, true freshman coming in. I expect a red shirt. Bradley Martino, 4-star kid coming in. I still expect a red shirt. And then Malachi Coleman, because he didn't get to do too much in spring, I'm a little bit more tentative, but he's the guy that I probably have right on the edge of like, if he can come in hot in the fall and whatnot, he could work his way in too. And that even jumbles it up more for us.
Yeah.
So, but for me, those are the four guys that I'm like, okay, they need more time. So what's 11 minus 4? 7. So that means 7 guys I have that could legitimately make a case for playing time. And we're talking about 4 of them really probably having an opportunity to do that. I mean, that is just crazy to me. What are your thoughts hearing those numbers and how it could potentially shake out?
It's a lot. That's, I mean, I mean, obviously, I only have 10 guys written down here, so I don't know where you got the 11th, but either way, that's how I'm supposed to be on this show. But no, like I said before, I do think like obviously there's a couple of guys like Jalen Smith, redshirt freshman, like he's probably not going to see the field a ton, but those younger guys, Q does a lot of special team stuff. He's not going to see the field a ton, and that's like how you explained it. I'm thinking the same thing. Like even with 7 guys deep, you gotta imagine somebody's going to transfer out. Like
The thing is that they probably won't transfer out till the end of the year, though.
oh yeah,
So
because
that's a positive, I guess.
yeah. But yeah, no, I don't know. I even trying to think of like I'm trying to look at like the starting 4 or the starting 3 that I'd have, and even that is so tough because there's a lot of unanswered questions without seeing them on the field or even seeing them in the system.
Yeah, no, I feel you. So let's go through those 7 I was talking about too that I have a feeling on. And see, you and I already kind of slightly disagree on one of them. Jalen Smith. You said redshirt freshman. I
Yep.
agree. He could be one of those guys that you see sit again, like we saw with New K's, like we saw with Kendrick Lanier. And I think that's kind of what you're seeing. From the spring ball, man, and I've fallen for this trap, so I could be completely wrong. But if in spring ball, I was like, this dude might find a way onto the field. Like he looked special in the moments that I got to see him. But I said that about Nuke Hayes the year before, and I said that about Kendrick Lanier the year before that. So it's like I never know what PJ is going to do. So I think you have a fair assumption there as well. But then speaking on it, I just mentioned Kendrick Lanier. I just mentioned New Hayes. Both of those guys have now sat basically for 2 years with the Gophers. One of them has 1 reception for 17 yards. The other one has 2 receptions for 22 yards. Like both of them are in the category of if you don't get them on the field this year, they will not be back here next year. Plain and simple. Like,
Mhm.
if they are, they have accepted the fate that they probably aren't going to be a critical player here because I don't see the route of like, if we go into year 3 and you're like, okay, well, we're hoping that Lemecki and Logan both leave, so that means one of us can get in. Well, there's still younger guys that are coming in, like a Jalen Smith, like a Bradley Martino, who's a 4-star, that are going to try and push and take those reps for you. So I feel like if it doesn't happen this year, those 2 are probably on the way out.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
those 3 were my guys that I put high upside, and it'll be a battle to get on the field. Was Kendrick Lanier, Danielle Hayes, and Jalen Smith. Any of those that you're really hoping for, or quick thoughts on them?
No, Nuke Hayes is where I'm really excited to see him this year. Nuke is like even what we saw glimpses of him again. He only had 2 catches in that bowl game, but you've talked about him before, and so I'm excited to see. I hope he can find the field a lot more this year because he out of those guys would be one I would hate to see transfer. But
Mm-hmm.
like you said, there's going to be movement, and that's going to be
For
the case
sure.
no matter what. But yeah, Nuke is who I'm pretty excited about. Actually, I hope he can show out.
Yeah, I feel you. So those were the 3 I have in like a high upside, but they have to battle for
Yep.
opportunities. So then the 4 I have above them that right now you could maybe pencil in as starters, but who knows if one of those 3 can push them and fall. I have Lemecki Brockington. I think seniority has helped him out. I think his ability to block has helped him out. But personally, as much as I love Lemecki Brockington, I need to see production or I want to see a young guy on the field. So, like, either he comes out hot and he starts showing up right away in some of these games, or personally, I would like to see a younger guy because I want to know what the future looks like as opposed to a last year eligible player.
I, I
Logan Loya, similar for me, but I think he's going to play a lot. But go ahead.
No, yeah, I just with Lebecki, I think we will see. I like you explained it before, like when you were talking about like reception counts. Like there's those top two guys, and now this will be his first year where he's not that third option all the time. So I think there is a good opportunity for him to see more of those catches because it's not like it wasn't drops or anything that he wasn't getting the ball. It's just that he's the third option. It doesn't always get to him. So I think this is he's going to have a great opportunity. I think I'm kind of excited to see what he can do with it. So.
For sure. No, I mean, like, he's probably one of the strongest receivers I've seen
Hmm.
come through this room. He's got speed to him. He showed the flashes in spring ball. He showed the flashes in a couple games, to be honest. But we had the injuries that kind of kept him out of some things. And then, like you said, kind of wide receiver 3 throughout. So this is the shot. But again, for me, I got to see it happen quickly.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I want to shoot for some upside. And that's just me. Logan Loya is the exact same thing for me. His is a little less because he has production elsewhere, but he doesn't have production here. I don't know you, Logan Loya. I don't have ties to you. So unless you come out and ball out, I might want to see one of these young guys that I've been hearing about all the time, like a Nuke Hayes or like a Kendrick Lanier. So I think both of those two, Lemecki and Loga and Loya, are both going to get opportunities to start this year. I think that's we saw the reps kind of look that way in the spring as well. But I think if they don't cash in on it, they don't do enough to maintain it. Some of these other guys are going to be hungry. I've been touting Javon Tracy all off season now, all spring. I said I think this dude looks nice. I had talked about some of the clips I had seen of him, and I was like, I think he looks like the guy who could fill that Daniel Jackson role, who has similar characteristics and traits like Daniel Jackson. I think Javon Tracy is the guy that I would pencil in as my favorite receiver in this room heading into the year. He had 79 receptions across 2 seasons at Miami, Ohio, 1,166 total yards and 9 touchdowns. And I think he has the most single season production of any wide receiver in this room, and he almost has the most total production of anybody in this room too. He has a little bit less yards and 3 less touchdowns than Logan Loya, who's played 3 more seasons than him. So overall, Javon Tracy is the guy that really perks my interest. And then the final one of the four that I haven't brought up yet is Christian Driver. I think he's going to be involved. I think PJ really likes him. I think that he brings something different than anybody in this room because I think he's the only true speed guy we have in the entire room. And I think that's going to find him a way onto the field.
Yeah, I agree. That's where I had both those guys. Javon Tracy, he's the one I was like, okay, this guy is a starter. He's going to start. I mean, even 800 yards last year. Like this is a productive wide receiver that you can plug in right away, and he's going to be good to go. And then I had what I had on Logan Loyola is kind of similar to what you were saying too. Is he does have to kind of show improve because I think Christian Driver is if there was going to be a wide receiver battle, I like the Logan Loyola Christian Driver battle. Like Christian Driver's been here and I think he's going to be very, very good. So if Logan Loyola doesn't come in, that's how I think about him is he has to show something right away because yes, he has proved it in UCLA, like you said, and he had a pretty good season there last year. But I think Christian Driver is right there ready to go. As far as a slot, like a speedy slot guy goes.
With all that said, I'm going to ask you this question. As we kind of transition towards predictions and whatnot, I'm not asking you for your prediction right here. I want to know if you were the coach, just knowing the traits of these guys, knowing what they've done so far, knowing the hype that you've been hoping for, what would you do with this room heading into 2025? Not what should PJ do, not what you think will happen, but what would you do?
If I'm the coach, Javon Tracy is seeing the field. Lemecki is seeing the field because Lemecki's been here. He's a senior. He's been here. He deserves that. Um, I really like Christian Driver too, and that's where I would say, okay, if I'm the coach, Logan Loyola has to prove himself, and he has to keep Christian Driver off the field. And Nuke Hayes, I'm starting strictly because he has a sick nickname. No, I'm just kidding. I do like Nuke Hayes there, but if I'm going to start an X, it's going to be Javon Tracy. Yeah, that'd be tough. Lemecki for sure, Javon Tracy for sure, and then Christian Driver's got to beat Logan off the field. Just because I think Logan's going to do something, being that he's played so much football already. Like he's intelligent enough. I think he's going to be or experienced enough where he's going to see the field. But I would love to see Christian Driver out there more. So
For sure. If it were up to me, and we all know it's not, I would have Lemecki and Loya either share a complementary role or Lemecki and Loya battle for a type of role because Lemecki can play in the slot if he needs to. Um,
see, that's
but
what, in my
basically,
brain I got him as like a Z back. Like I don't know. I don't see him being a slot receiver.
yeah, no, he doesn't have to. He definitely can be more of an outside guy. But also with his speed and his size, I think he can work from the slot if you needed him to. But my main focus would be the five of Driver, Smith, Tracy, Hayes, and Lanier. And I want two of those five as starters. And hopefully one is rotating in. So hopefully you're getting three production from three of those five guys. And then you have the vets finding reps in there as well or earning more reps as they go. But that, for me, I just want to know what we have moving forward
Mm-hmm.
and not redoing it every single year, not trying to find new people to step in every year because I think the more you develop in your younger guys, hopefully the longer sustainability you can have.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. It's just a tough crapshoot. It does just show me that I could never be a coach. I just have no clue. I would pick the guys I like the most and be like, hey, remember what we were talking earlier? Go on, get in there, get a snap.
All right, so then let's head over to the predictions. What do you got? Any predictions for this upcoming year with this group?
I think we're gonna see that. I'm gonna stick with that. Like it's gonna be a real competition between Christian Driver and Logan Loyola. That's gonna be the number one competition, and I think Javon Tracy stands out as a definitive wide receiver one. Although there is the
Yeah,
factor too that we haven't really. I mean, Miami of Ohio isn't. That's a Group of 5 school. You know, like it's still that we always put in that caveat of you're still playing up a little bit of a level, so you don't know what the competition change is going to do to these guys. But
for sure. No, my predictions, I put Javon Tracy leads the room in receptions and receiving yards. I put Christian Driver has 5 receptions of 25 or more yards on the year. So I think
okay,
he's going to find some big deep balls. I think Drake Lindsey having a bigger arm than Max Brosmer, they're going to take a couple more shots with him this year and let his top end speed get there. I put one of the high upside trio that I mentioned. So that again, that's Kendrick Lanier, Danielle Hayes, and Jalen Smith. One of those three, I think, is going to emerge, and one of those three, at least one of those three, is going to transfer at the end of the year. I think that's how that's going to shake out. And then finally, and this might sound disrespectful, I think Gophers people are going to get after me on this. I don't think either of Brockington or Loya are going to top 350 yards. I think they're going to get involved. I think they're going to have opportunities. I think they're going to get targets. But I think that if they don't show that they can be the number one true type guys right away, I think they could start to get phased out towards the back end of the year in more specific roles, like more blocking looks or more screen looks or more depending on what their strengths are. I could see them getting rotated in more as opposed to being the staple on the field number one. So I think if they don't take over in the first five after the Ohio State game, I think we
mm-hmm.
could start seeing shifts if they don't start to command the room.
And if we drop one of those games early in the season too, that shift could definitely be sooner. I would agree with you in that.
All right, so then moving to the next thought, do you have any sleepers or breakouts in this group?
Breakout, Nuke Hayes. Nuke Hayes, I really do think he has an awesome shot of making the field, like of fighting for the field. So I'm gonna go Nuke. That's all. I mean, as far as it's just so hard to tell with these guys. I was really excited about Malachi Coleman.
I think it's just going to be another year for him.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what is becoming more and more clear, which is kind of a bummer. So preemptively next year, 2027 season, Malachi Coleman goes crazy.
All right, my sleepers or breakouts. I think I'm super intrigued by the upside of driver with the incorporation of Drake Lindsey's arm in the deep ball. So I think he could get really involved this year. And then I think if given the time or snaps, I think one or both of Nuke Hayes and Jalen Smith could assert themselves as like I am the future of this room. I'm one of those dudes. I think Tracy, like I've said, is going to be a dude. He's got 2 years left, so he could be the one this year and next year.
I mean,
But I think one of those two is going to put themselves in the conversation this year.
yeah, looking at it now, I mean, if we look forward to next year, the room looks a lot more definitive. If it were to stay the same, I mean, obviously that's the case for most rosters, but like even next year with the guys who have to leave, the room looks a lot more like we would be more decisive on
Does it
some
though, or
things.
does it matter on what happens this year? That's why I kind of want to see young guys. Because let's say you lock in Tracy, Loya, and Lemecki as your top three. We said the top three will get the most targets. If those three are your top three, you're losing both Lemecki and Loya at the
And
end of the year,
Loyola.
and all of a sudden you only have Tracy left, and then all of a sudden you're probably going to lose two of Nuke Hayes, Kendrick Lanier, and Jalen Smith because they didn't play. So then you lose two of those guys, two of your top guys. That's four of these seven we're talking about. You're hoping that it's Tracy, Driver, and whoever stays of that upside three, and then you're hoping some of those younger guys step up. Like,
Yeah,
you
you
see how
could be
this could
right.
get messy
Yeah,
really
this
fast?
is a disaster. Why did we recruit all these guys? We sent the offers. Well, we never get that many commits. They all said yes.
I'm definitely a little worried on how it shakes out, but only if we continue to sit our young guys forever. Like, I was hopeful last year that we would have saw some Kenrick or some Nuke's, not full time, but like what we saw with Chris Amon Bell when Tyler Johnson and Bateman were going. What we saw of Daniel Jackson when Bateman and Chris Amon Bell were going, like working one of the young
Yep.
guys into there so you can kind of see what's coming. I wish that's what would have happened over the last 2 years, but we got more of the same. We got Daniel Jackson and Corey Crooms, and then we got Daniel Jackson and Elijah Spencer, and now all of those guys are gone, and we don't know what we're going to get.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. Like that is a stressful situation we are in.
We'll see. Hopefully they figure it out. Hopefully this is all for naught and we look back on this and I just look like a big dummy, but I am a little bit worried on how it all plays out.
I feel like
But
by
let's
week 4 we're gonna be like, yeah, that's how it is definitely how we saw it. Like that's how I'm gonna be. Like that's what I would have done.
I feel like I'm going to be more nervous after week 4. All right, so then I want to talk about other Big Ten players. Are there any guys in the conference that you're excited about or that you're ready to see another year of them or anything like that?
I mean, throughout the room, I didn't do a ton of research on the other Big Ten wide receivers. Let me hear yours first.
Well, I feel like Jeremiah Smith is an easy one for anybody.
Yeah.
He's him. He's him, plain and simple. Dude's a freak.
Yeah.
We might be watching the next Julio. Like it's nasty. I had two things that I wrote down, and I don't know if either one of them will stand out to most people, but Devontae Ross is a guy transferring from Troy. Yep, I'm saying I'm excited about a guy transferring from Troy. He's going to Penn State. Now, Penn State hasn't had good receivers over the last few years. They've had a really good tight end. They've had really good running backs. They have a good quarterback, but they've never had really good receivers. And so this guy is someone I'm super excited about. I think he's a dude. I remember watching him play versus Iowa last year, and at that Iowa game, Troy versus Iowa, and I think it was at Iowa too. Devontae Ross had 5 receptions for 142 yards and 2 touchdowns. This dude lit Iowa up, and he also had a punt return for 77 yards and a touchdown. Like, he is an athletic freak.
Yeah.
He has the speed. He can get it going. And now you're telling me he's on a Penn State team that has some of the most returning production, has 2 top-notch running backs, has really good tight ends, and has a quarterback that wants to throw it to a receiver. He could be nasty.
And that's a real defense too. That ain't no joke.
Right. And then the other kind of group that I wrote down was the Nebraska receivers. I know people probably won't like to hear that, but I've already kind of gassed up Dylan Royal a little bit. He has to throw it to somebody, but he got Dane Key from Kentucky, who had like 700 yards at Kentucky and a few touchdowns. He's super fast. They got Ja'Cory Brooks, who's super fast. And then they added a true freshman from Cal last year. Their best receiver was a true freshman, and he left and went to go work with Dylan Raiola. He calls him Mini Mahomes.
Oh,
And I know,
I'm
I
sick
know.
of it. I'm so sick of it.
But I really do think that their receiver room is going to be super productive. I think they could finish top 4 in receiver production this year.
Well, hopefully not. Hopefully not. But yeah, other than Jeremiah Smith, I didn't do a ton of deep diving into the rest of the Big Ten, but he was a no-brainer, as obviously because he's just generational guy.
Right. All right, I'm gonna list my top 10 in the Big Ten, and instead of like who do you think is higher, who do you think is lower, and all that, I want to know how many people you actually know on this list
Yeah,
because there's
that's the
so many
thing.
guys that have left the Big Ten over these last 2 years too, like either transferred or gone to the NFL and whatnot. Like, there's a ton of names that I had to really do some like deep dives and digging to understand the type of receiver they were, the production they have, where they could go, and it was gross. But
Can never be me doing research like that. Nonsense.
all right, so my top 10 for 2025, Jeremiah Smith, easily number one. Like, there's no questions there. I put it down and moved on. There's no questions. My number two might catch some people off guard because he didn't really do a whole lot last year, even though people thought he was going to pop off. He was 23rd in the Big Ten in receiving yards, but his name's Evan Stewart. He transferred from Texas A&M and went to Oregon. So he was with Oregon last year with Dylan Gabriel, and I think a lot of people thought he was going to be the number one, and he ended up third on the team in receiving yards. But a lot of people thought he was going to go to the NFL this offseason, even though he only had 600 yards and he returned. And so I think he's definitively going to be the number one, and I think he's going to try and pop off this year. Now that Tez Johnson's gone, now that Trayshawn Holden's gone, he's like, this is my room, and I'm going to show you what I was supposed to be last year. So I've got him at number two. Elijah Surratt at number three. He is from Indiana. He had 957 yards and 8 touchdowns last year. I think they have a better quarterback this year, so I think he'll improve on those numbers. Devontae Ross, the guy from Penn State that transferred from Troy, is my number four. And Dane Key, the guy I mentioned from Nebraska, high speed guy, I think he's my number five. Now, of those five, how many of those names did you know?
Elijah Surratt, I have heard his name. Didn't know him though. Knowing him and hearing his name is different. Don't remember. But I remember hearing the name. But that's just because Indiana was all over everything all year last year. They were such a big story. So
Everybody was Googling him.
yeah,
Just Google him. All right, I'll wrap up this top 10 then. My number six, Makai Lemon from USC.
Nope.
He kind of showed up and showed out. He had 764 yards and 3 touchdowns. So he stepped up, especially because their speed dude Branch didn't really deliver. Deuce Robinson didn't really deliver. Makai Lemon came out, balled out, and those other two transferred off. So I think he's going to continue to grow on last year. Then I've got Denzel Boston from Washington.
Good name. Good name.
He's a big dude too. I think he's like 6'4", 225 or something like that.
Okay.
Big dude, had 834 yards and 9 touchdowns last year. And then we've got Mylan Graham from Ohio State. He is going to be a redshirt freshman this year. Super talented. Has not played yet, but I think he's going to be that wide receiver too in Ohio State that balls out. I think he's going to play over Carnell Tate, who some people might put ahead of him. And then what was that? That was 8. 9, I've got Nick Marsh at Michigan State. He did decent last year. I think he's going to continue to build with his quarterback from last year. He had 649 yards, 3 touchdowns. And then number 10, I put Javon Tracy. I'm speaking it into existence. I had him initially in my honorable mentions, but I was like, nah, I'm not doing it. I'm putting him in there. Drake Lindsay, Javon Tracy, the connection starts this year. So I've got him in at number 10. My honorable mentions were Nizia Hunter, the guy from Cal who went to Nebraska, Ian Strong, who is a favorite of Ethan Kaliakmanis over at Rutgers, and then Krishan McCray, one because his name is absolutely baller, over at Michigan State. Transferred from Kent State, former school with our running backs coach who turned head coach and now is no longer the coach.
Hey, still running back coach, Mo.
Mo is still out there, so we got
Oh,
to oh, woo, baby.
easy now.
Connection out there. Um Christian McCray, super fast, super versatile. I think he's gonna do well with Michigan State. So those are my top 10 and honorable mentions. Did you know any of the names aside from Javon Tracy or Jeremiah Smith?
None of them on the list, but I know Tate from Ohio State. That's
Arnell
that's it.
Tate.
But yeah, no, none on the list. None on the list. But does it seem like the numbers are low? Like none of these receivers have really like insane numbers going into the season here.
A little bit.
I
I
mean,
feel like
other than Jeremiah Smith. Like
right,
how
last
many yards
year
did Jeremiah Smith finish with last year?
1,315 and 15 touchdowns.
And then it's a steep drop off. It feels like after that.
Then it goes to a tight end, Tyler Warren,
Well,
who's now in the NFL.
that's true.
Uh,
Stud.
and then it went to
Stud.
Ty Felton, Maryland receiver, who is now in the NFL, 1,124. And then after him was another Ohio State receiver, Emeka Egbuka, also in the NFL with 1,011. Then it was Pat Bryant, 984, also in the NFL. So the next one coming back is Elijah Surratt at 957. So that's what, 400 yards less than what Jeremiah
Yeah,
Smith had?
like it's a steep drop off. Like these numbers. I mean, I guess if you have 1,000-yard season, like why are you not going to the NFL? So I guess it makes sense, but it just doesn't
Yeah,
seem
but
like the
across
numbers are insane.
for sure. Across, I just went back to 2022. We had one, two, three, four total receivers over 1,000 yards in the Big Ten, and then in 2023 we only had two receivers over 1,000 yards in the Big Ten, and then last year we had three receivers over 1,000 yards in the Big Ten. So
I suppose it makes sense. I mean, it's Big Ten. Run the damn.
it's true. I think the Big Ten runs a lot more, and also I feel like it's like less games with college, so you see a lot more people in that like 800 to
Yeah.
like almost 1,000 range that are just short of it because there was an injury or there was a game where they only had like 40 yards or something like that, and it just throws everything off.
Fair enough.
All right, well, that's our wide receiver wrap up and talk, but we got to talk about the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. So I got to know, what are your thoughts heading into this matchup? This will be week 4. I think the Gophers should be 3-0 at this point. First Big Ten game. You're coming off of a bye week, I believe, heading into this game. So before you hit Big Ten play, you get the extra prep with Rutgers, which is nice. Rutgers won't have the extra prep because they're coming straight from another game to this one. How are you feeling about Minnesota, knowing they lost last year, but they have Rutgers coming to Minnesota this year?
It makes me feel much better. I mean, obviously the loss last year that sucked. It was a brutal loss. But I mean, these coaching staffs know each other. These coaches have essentially all worked together at some point or another. So I have a lot of confidence in us. Actually, I mean, especially I was looking at not necessarily their offense. I think they only had a couple of new transfers that, I mean, were like a new receiver or something like that. I'm sure you'll give us all that information. But the defense, it looked like, from what I was just looking at, they had 6 potential starters that are transferring in. So it's kind of hard to evaluate that. So
Mhm.
I don't know. But I feel good
No,
about it. I do feel like we're going to win.
yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head. We both know, all of us know, everybody listening to this knows that you can't underestimate this team, because we saw what happens when you underestimate the team. But I'm already seeing people on Twitter talking about like, oh, Minnesota's going to lose that game because they were down by double digits with under 2 minutes left last year, and now Minnesota lost a ton of players. Like they're going to struggle. Like it's a loss. And I'm like, bro, tell me you did not watch that game without telling me you did not
We
watch
were
that game.
up most of the game.
They were up most of the game. Darius Taylor, this is the game where he only had like 10 carries or something because he was clearly hampered by something. So they were like protecting him. On top of that, Minnesota had the game in control. They were up 2, and they had the ball back with 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And then we saw the flukiest of fluky things happen. The first play, we had a reception completion to Gears. Gears fumbles. Then Rutgers gets the ball. Then the next play, Rutgers throws a pass, and they call a BS defensive pass interference on Justin Wally that puts them down on the 2-yard line.
Non-existent.
So Of course, they get the score there. But even with that score, they're only up five. Minnesota gets the ball back. There's still like 7 minutes left in the game. So, still a game where we could very much come back in and take control again. But then we fumble again in a sack fumble. We get on top of it, but then we get sacked again for a safety. Like, that's the flukiest 2 minutes of football in the entire Gophers season last year. And that is what flipped the entire game in the fourth quarter. So if you think that that defines how the Gophers will be this year because of last year, it's the most like unpredictable 2 minutes of football. So you cannot rely on that predicting what could happen next year.
Yeah, I just it was such a disaster. And then did we have the ball with like within 2 minutes and I can't remember how much we were down by. We kicked the sad field goal.
Mhm.
That sad down like we got to put some points on the board, but really like maybe we should try to score a touchdown. Like I just
Right.
remember the sad field goal at the end was just the icing on the cake. It was depressing.
Yes, no, 100%. So overall, I think that it was more so the Gophers shooting themselves in the foot with some bad luck over Rutgers actually dominating in that game. And then I went and looked at the Rutgers defense because I couldn't remember, like, I remembered watching that game and thinking, man, they balled out. If you actually looked at how they performed over the year, that Minnesota game might have been one of their best games of the entire season. They finished 87th in pass defense, 89th in rush defense, 95th in total defense, and 71st in scoring defense. They were not great last year, but they just decided to ball out against Minnesota in the fourth quarter and have two sacks with a fumble and a safety and another punch out fumble here and there. I was just like, come on.
Am I remembering correctly, or wasn't their whole season kind of like that? Their whole season, they won a lot of close games, but they just kind of ended on the right side of them, if I'm remembering correctly. Because
They
they
had
had a
multiple
decent
games like
season,
that.
but it was a
Yeah.
lot of them where they were like, "Oh, they're gonna you leave them hanging around, and then they just kind of
I think they had 3 or 4 wins like just like that. I know they had
yeah
a game-winning field goal. I think either they made it or the other team missed it, and so they got the win. And then there was this one with Minnesota, and I know there was one other game for sure that was pretty much like that.
yeah. That's I mean I don't feel I still feel very confident. It's still Rutgers. I don't know. It's tough for that to wash out. But from what I'm looking at, though, like you said on defense, they were not very good last year, and they did bring a lot of guys in. So who knows?
But yeah, will that work? Will it fit? Who will
Yeah,
develop? I mean, that was my biggest thing. I said the biggest unknown I have with Rutgers is that defense. They seemed to struggle last year, but what will happen? Will they get right? Will the transfers help? There was only one transfer of the 9 coming in that I really was like, oh, that guy's actually a dude. Everyone else, I was like, oh, they're fine. But
yeah,
the one guy was from Ohio and he had 44 tackles, 8.5 sacks, and 3 forced fumbles. Like that dude was a
dang,
dude.
yeah,
But for Rutgers offense, I mean, Ethan looked good last year. He wasn't awful, but he wasn't a world beater. I still got love and respect for him in his time here. I had a good relationship with him here, but he was 10th in the Big Ten in passing yards last year, so he's fifth among returners for next year. But he still has a terrible completion percentage. He's sitting at like 52% for his completion percentage last year. So he can be baited into some risky throws, some bad throws, some turnover opportunities that Minnesota has to capitalize on. But last year, again, he balled out in this game. So it's like the Rutgers just had the perfect storm of the defense balling out, Ethan balling out, all at the same time, and
yep,
it just ended up working well for him.
yeah. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. That is one of the games I'm most like. There's other games where I'm like really confident, and I'm like, nope, that's a win. Circle it as a win. And Rutgers, for some reason, I want to circle it as a win, but I just don't know.
I have Rutgers circled as a win.
Well, I'm 10-2. I got a lot of wins circled on the calendar.
I've been looking, and I think I'm currently sitting at 9-3, but we'll see how that goes as we go.
Okay, didn't that get better? Has that gotten better since we first talked? Since
I
we
think
first did our
before I
predictions?
said that they would be around 8-4, so I think I've talked myself up a game, but we'll
Oh
see
yeah,
what
we'll
happens.
have you at 10-2 before kickoff.
Yeah. Other than Ethan, they've got two big receivers coming back. Ian Strong, KJ Duff, both are big dudes. One's 6'4", the other 6'6". Both of them are like 220. So like big boys, big weapons. And They have a transfer running back coming in who played at Florida State and then he played at Florida Atlantic. He's going to try and fill the void of Monangai. He had 800 plus rushing yards last year, but he had 1,300 total yards and 14 total touchdowns. So he could be a dude, but we'll see if it translates back because he didn't really do anything at Florida State. So they've got some pieces on offense. They've got their QB returning. I didn't see if the O line was returning or not. But the defense is the biggest question mark for me in that game. I think overall it's probably going to come down to taking care of the football, like we saw the issue last year, self inflicted wounds, like we saw the issue last year, and then establishing the run game. I think the last time we played Rutgers, aside from last year, we decimated them, and it's because we just absolutely buried them in the ground. Last year, Darius Taylor was a little nicked up. We didn't run the ball very well, and it was a tight game the entire time. If you can establish the run game against Shiano and really get a little bit of a lead, but then just waste and wear away at their defense, they crack and they break. So if you can establish the run game against Rutgers and get a lead, you can win the game.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. That's what I did have the running back written down too, that they have the new back who's probably going to be their starting running back. Oh my God. But yeah, that's what it's going to come down to is the defense. I just have no clue what they're going to look like. So
all right, so that's going to wrap us up for today with the Rutgers talk, with the wide receivers talk. We got to wrap up with one chat GPT question, and I actually am going between two different ones right now that could be good. So I'm going to ask you, do you want it to be related to the Gophers and their stadium, or do you want it to be completely random and off base?
oh man, random one's fun. Do a random one.
All right, so who on the team is most likely to become a senator one day? A senator. A senator. It doesn't have to be in Minnesota, but I feel like it has to be in Minnesota because
Oh yeah.
they'll get the extra little shine and the extra votes because they played for the Gophers or something like that. But who on the team could you see as a senator one day?
Okay, this one is a lot harder than I expected. On the team. Man, do you have anyone in mind? I'm trying to think. This is tough.
If I could do last year, I would have one like ready to go. But for this year, I have no clue.
Yeah, like I don't know. I mean, we don't have anyone who's like I'm like strictly buttoned up here for business. We got a lot of goofballs
There's a ton
on the
of
team.
new voices.
Yeah.
Oh, nope. I got it. Derek LeCaptain.
Oh, yeah.
The last name,
Well,
the buttoned up, the everything, it just works out. I was gonna say last year I would have said Cody Lindenberg, like
that's
once his
literally who
football
I was
career's
thinking
done.
too.
Once his football career's wrapped, he comes back and he's just like a senator for the state.
Every speech he gives has football references in it, like football undertones of what he's gonna do.
Always
Said it.
he continues to use the word elite all the time.
We get this bill through, it's gonna be an elite decision.
I'm telling you, it'll have elite repercussions on our economic status. Like,
Exactly what it would be. LeCaptain is a great pick. That's what I was thinking, linebacker, and I was thinking Cody too, and I was like, oh man, I don't know who else would be. Because like I'm looking at the receiver list. Nah, I'm good.
nah,
I'm good.
nah,
Nuke is not going to get a lot of votes with Nuke Hayes as his thing.
no,
Great
no.
taglines in the voting thing, but it's just not going to happen.
Chicken Jansky could maybe have a case. I think he could maybe have a case.
That does
Walk
seem-
on quarterback, like really grinded it out for his community, put away offers of basketball and hire grander, and now he's back to help his state, and he's back to do the right thing. I could see it. Chicken Jansky.
It's a last name you'd see in somebody's yard sign.
Yep.
You know, 'cause you
Yep.
really don't really know how to pronounce it
Vote
exactly.
Chicken Jansky.
Yeah, you know, like, it's just a colored sign with just the name.
Yep. All right. Well, I will save the stadium themed one for next week, but thank you again for tapping in. Next week's going to be an interesting one. We're diving into tight ends. Excuse me. I am choking my butt off on this episode, but we're diving into tight ends. Tristyn's got some love for tight ends, not just the position. No, I'm just playing.
Oh,
But we will be back at it again. We'll talk the next opponent too, which I believe is Ohio State. So that's going to be some fun discussions. We'll see you then here at the Gopher Broke Pod. Until next time, roll the boat, Scotty Mago Gophers, and as always, don't forget to hit subscribe.